we speak of he as PG. Well, we'll go ahead and say it. Paul George, is a better Thunder than a Pacer. I don't know, but he could have stayed here. But we're not bitter. We don't know how to grudge. We just don't speak of his name anymore.
No, and listen, I still maintain if they had not traded him, he would still be here. And that's why he's in Oklahoma City. The money that he would have gotten to stay is so much more than he would have gotten to leave. I know he said, well, I wouldn't have stayed in Indiana. I would bet all my little pile of money, which is, by the way, very little, that he would have stayed.
Mine too.
I really, yeah. We can put it together even. I think he would have stayed here. I just don't have a question about that because it was, what is it? It's like, it ends up being like $30 or $40 million more. That's a ton of money for a guy who had a career-threatening injury. So he would have stayed here. But you know what? The Pacers are better off. Oklahoma City's better off. It's been fine.
Sometimes it's okay to just get rid of that ex-girlfriend and move on, isn't it?
Listen, you know it.
So speaking of superstars and what they thought they were going to accomplish, and let's make no bones about it, Paul George wanted to be in L.A., wanted to play with LeBron James, but we see LeBron James at L.A. They're not even going to – I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just set LeBron James for the rest of the season. LeBron James, the Lakers, they have gone off the rails and into the ravine, and nobody's even looking at him anymore, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, they made a splash this week with LeBron. Gosh, it's amazing. I say already, but man, to pass Michael Jordan is something special. There's no question. He's going to pass Kobe next year if he plays as well as he has been, which is just listen, it's phenomenal. And LeBron is a hard guy not to like, but I found a way.
We always find a way not to like LeBron. There's always a way not to not like LeBron.
That's right. Listen, the reality of the way the NBA works is, the Lakers are not going to make the playoffs this year. They're going to get a 10th pick in the draft-ish. That won't affect them heavily for next season. But if they're able to shed cap space, which I think they'll be able to, they're going to land a superstar. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe God, wouldn't it be funny if it was Kyrie Irving? But it's going to be somebody, and they're going to be instantly right back in the mix next year. So enjoy this 1-year hiatus from them dominating the headlines as the season wraps up over the next, 6 weeks.
So let's get into some combine talk here in just a second, but real quickly, the NFL, NBA championships, Golden State and insert name who here.
I'm sorry, one more time?
I said NBA championship, Golden State versus insert name here. Who would that be?
Yeah, Milwaukee. And I think as where we are right now, I think it's a 5-game series. But maybe, listen, Milwaukee's going to improve as they play together. Their additions at the trade deadline were so savvy, I thought. But it takes time. It takes about 25 to 35 days and then 20-some games to come together. So we'll see. If they do that, and they do indeed improve, but Mirtic and Pau Gasol, great additions at the deadline, and I think they'll win the East. It's a matter of will they contend with that Western Conference matchup.
Talking with Matthew Hicks real quickly here before we wrap it up with you. Let's talk about the NFL. Obviously, the Combine's been here in town all weekend, the Underwear Olympics, if you will. A big talk about AB and some other things going on in the NFL. And Collins, maybe some talk around there with the Colts. But what are your takeaways from the 2019 Underwear Olympics, or as we like to say, the NFL Combine?
Well, I think obviously the big story is Kyler Murray, even though he didn't really work out. But kind of spurning the athletics to play in the NFL is big. That's big news, and I think it's kind of interesting from the top down what happens with what does Arizona do, and what trade does that inspire Arizona to do. I think that's a very interesting story as we move forward. Do they take Kyler Murray with the number 1 pick overall, Do they go with Nick Bosa, the kind of the premier pass rusher in this whole thing from Ohio State? So we'll see. I don't know. It'll be interesting. And then you the Colts kind of have to do that wait and see, because it's obviously going to be a little while before they pick, and that's a great place for them to be in. They have one piece, though, that I think is interesting as we get into the draft here, and we can talk about free agency if you'd like, but as they get into the draft, they have a backup quarterback that is pretty darn good. And I don't know, as the chess pieces move around, I don't know that he's going to be in big demand, but if he indeed is, that might land you as high as another second-round pick, and they've already got a couple. So that could be interesting to see if they get a third, second-round pick. Do they package that to move up in the draft? Do they just take 3 second-round picks? We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they wind up doing in the draft. But there's a lot of great prospects. I kind of have my eye on A.J. Brown, a wide receiver from Ole Miss, kind of clearly one of the wide receivers that could fall to them with that 26th pick. A lot of people feel like they need to go safety. That could be addressed with a free agency. You talked about Landon Collins. I think that's at least possible. The reality of it is they're not going to spend a ton of money, but they have to spend some. The NFL requires you to have a salary floor, and they're not there yet. So they'll have to spend some money. There's no question about that. They did bring back Marcus Hunt, which I think is another great signing for this team. But they got to spend some money, so it'll be very interesting to see who they spend it on.
You know, a lot of people were all worked up about Kyler Murray's height, whether or not he was tall enough to go number one. That's a big thing. A lot of people don't realize that. And put on your tinfoil hat again. A lot of people thought, well, maybe he put in some heel implants to make him look taller. Here's the thing. Whenever you can make your choice between playing Major League Baseball or playing in the NFL, you choose the NFL. That's your choice. I personally think he probably would have did better in the MLB, although the stardom may have been a little bit slower. It's like driving a 4-cylinder as opposed to an 8-cylinder. Once you get her up to speed, I mean, it flies. And I think once you get him up to speed, I think he would be less prone to injury and make more money to be a superstar in the MLB than he would in the NFL. But he chose to go with the NFL, and the Cardinals now have a choice to make. And do they want to continue with Josh Rosen? I think they could still trade off that number one spot and still possibly end up with Kyler Murray, because if they traded it off to a team that doesn't need a quarterback, they could still get Kyler Murray and some other people in the mix. So we'll see what happens. Let's talk about Collins. The Giants said, hey, we're going to let you just go ahead and go. You do what you got to do, where you got to go. But Ballard and Reich and Irsay have got to put their heads together and figure out a way to bring him to the Colts.
Well, he does seem to make a lot of sense, doesn't he?
Think about it, Matt. Think about it. We had him here. We had the ability to draft him. Not to say that the decision not to draft him was a bad decision, but it's kind of like one of those situations like, hey, we could have had you before, but we don't have you now, but now we can have you now. Let's right a wrong, if you will. Go ahead.
The reality of it is you'd be giving him his second contract yourself. So this really isn't crazy. I mean, the only thing you're going to have to do is compete against other teams to get him. And I don't know what listen, there's a ton of safeties out there too, by the way, but you're right. They could have had him, and you can kind of correct an error from a previous regime at this point. I think he fits in well with this team. What you have to remember, and I heard somebody on the radio say, well, they got to get a lockdown cover corner. No, they have to have very strong safety play. They've got strong linebacker play. What they miss from that cover two, the Tampa 2 that Dungy ran for all those years, they're missing strong safety play, and they're missing edge rushers. So that's what they need. They've got the linebacking play. They've got a perfect linebacker in this system in Darius Leonard. They need a little help interior the interior linebacker. But, I mean, they can get that here through the draft and maybe even through free agency. But they need an edge rusher, another one, and they need safety help because, listen, Malik Hooker is a guy – I think he's going to have a long career in this league. I think you're going to go at some point. He's going to play for another team. Maybe it's the Colts, by the way. Maybe he'll bounce back from a disappointing sophomore campaign.
I saw what you did there.
But by the way, but regardless, I think that he did not live up to the scheme. And Landon Collins is a guy that can fit in this scheme. You think. Very, very well. And I think, it looks like a no-brainer. They've got all the money in China almost. I mean, they got $105 million to spend. I don't want to see them spend it on somebody like Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell. I mean, I think they've got running back situations fine. They need a wide receiver, but I don't think with Deion Kane coming back, and if you truly do believe in him as much as you're saying, you don't bring in Antonio Brown. You bring in somebody that's more of a placeholder. To get him healthy, you spend your money on your defense at this point. There's some free agents out there available that I think can really help your defense.
Matt, you mentioned Bell and Brown, and that shifts focus to as the world turns around the Pittsburgh Steelers. Antonio Brown, a lot of drama surrounding him and the Bills and now the Raiders, and we don't know where he's going to end up at. A lot of people this silent coup, if you will, with the Bills. But apparently AB's like, I'm not gonna play for the Bills. I want to play for the Raiders or whoever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they got themselves in a pickle between the two of them. Let's settle the case here right now. Bale goes where, Brown goes where. Let's play some football.
Bell is not going to get the money that he expects to get. I think Bell – okay, I'm going to make some wild predictions. Bell winds up in either San Francisco
Breaking news.
This is just probably none of this is going to happen. But I think Bell winds up in San Francisco or Miami. And then I think Antonio Brown winds up in – I think they talk themselves – I think they talk themselves into it. Yep, I think they talked themselves into it, and he goes to the Tennessee Titans.
Speaking of the AFC South, I think we're going to see them tougher than they've ever been, especially now with the addition of Nick Foles to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which only makes sense for them anyway.
Yeah,
I don't begrudge them. It's just we just don't want him playing. We don't want any good players playing in the AFC South. Let's just say that, and let's just admit that. But the AFC South is going to be a strong competitor, especially if AB goes to the Titans. You've got Jolly old St. Nick at the Jacksonville Jaguars. AFC South, what say you going into 2019?
Well, listen, I think it is still it's a two-team division. I like what Jacksonville did bringing Nick Foles, but the reality of it is he's never played well outside of Philadelphia. He's got to prove that. Not to say he won't, but he's got to prove it. I still think they are a hot dumpster fire mess. They are the worst team in the division still. They'll win more games, I think, but not more than 6 or 7. Tennessee, I can't figure Tennessee out. They should be better than they are. They look to me still. Now, obviously, the offseason's got a long way to go, but they still look to me as a 500 team. And then you look at Houston and Indianapolis, and Houston's really good. Now, they're aging on defense, and I think we saw that as the season progressed. But I like Houston. I think they can contend for the division, but the paced mode that the Colts are going in, they are not doing what the previous regime made the mistake on. The previous regime made the conference finals, right? They get blown out by New England, and they think, oh, my gosh, we are 2 skill position players away from contending. And they go out, and they get Frank Gore, which Frank Gore was a great pickup in reality, and Andre Johnson.
Yeah,
and you think
absolutely.
Andre Johnson is going to have this great season. You know, I thought he was going to catch 70 balls for 700 yards. And it was going to be – we all thought it was great, right? We can't lie. It did not work. I think also what that did is I think it sent the wrong message to the team, like they were skipping a step. But we're good now. They believe their own hype. I'm not talking about luck. I'm not talking about Hilton. I'm talking about the rank and